I think that I was destined to do this work as early as 5 years old. I remember having debates, let's call them, with my grandfather every now and then when he would say something that in my 5 year old mind I thought was biased as we know it now. And we would just have these great conversations. However, from a professional perspective, I started my business in the mid 80s, but I wasn't selecting diversity and inclusion. And way back then, they just called it diversity. However, it was becoming a hot topic, and other people kept telling me to do this work. But when I would ask them why they thought I should do this work, they would say, well, you're female and you're African American. I didn't think that was a good enough reason. So I dabbled in it a little and continued to do other training and focuses in my consulting work, leadership development, that kind of thing. However, I started going to South Africa in 1991 after Mandela was freed. And I had amazing experiences, personal ones, that helped me know that I needed to do this work, that I needed to find my voice in this space of now diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what I mean by that is in the past, I saw so many people doing this work that was very filled with blaming and shaming, and that's just not my style. So what I realized was that my style and what my clients tell me frequently how much they love is I don't speak in all of the 30,000 foot word language, so to speak. I know them in the space, but I believe that my role as a consultant, as a diversity strategist, is to digest that information and then share it with my clients and my audience members in a way that makes sense to them on a day-to-day basis. So using very easy to understand examples, and certainly in a way to help people know that all of us have bias and all of us can disrupt those biases that don't give us the result that they want. So the information is constant, and I'm a lifelong learner. And so I'm always looking for new ways to share this information with people. I was fortunate to be able to write two books so far. I'm working on my third. The first book is called The Diversity Advantage, a guide to making diversity work. And it's written for the everyday professional in any line of work. Essentially, what I did in that book is to answer the questions that are most often asked. So I explain what diversity is from a very day-to-day perspective, meaning diversity is simply being on the team, getting a diverse group of people on a team, and why that's important. Inclusion is who gets to play. So having people think about, who do you focus on? Who do you pay attention to? Whose advice do you listen to? And all kinds of other questions, even including what words to say, what words to get rid of, knowing that we'll never be totally politically correct, but there are some words and phrases that people frequently ask about. For example, one that comes up all the time now is I'm always being asked, should people in the US use the term Black or African American? Well, my answer is yes, meaning use both, meaning that Black is more appropriate when you're speaking globally because there could be people of color who have African ancestry, perhaps, but they're not African American. And African American is the more formal term to use in the United States. However, there are people who prefer Black, even in the US, and other people who prefer African American, because at least when you use African American in print, both the A's are capitalized, where the B very often isn't. So it's a subtle form of racism, even when it's not intentional. So that's what that book really refers to. The other book I co-authored, and my co-author and I had 50 years of experience in the DE&I space at the time. Additionally, we interviewed 12 chief diversity officers, all of whom worked for companies that were extraordinarily successful, not only in D&I, but also in their business overall. So we wanted to know what were their best practices, what were some of the things that people could modify in their own businesses. So that book is a strategy book. And most importantly, what we found is that no company does everything totally right or totally complete, but they do some things very well. So that book really highlights all the components of a D&I strategy and how to get those going, how to measure them, etc. What excites me now is that my consulting clients use my book as a guide in developing their DE&I strategy, and they hire me to help them along the way. I feel so fortunate to be among these amazing speakers and authors in the Inclusive Leader Institute because we all represent expertise in the DE&I space, but we all have very different perspectives. We each come from not only different countries, but different continents as well. So anyone who is looking for a very broad view of diversity and inclusion in particular, because that's the hard part, will be able to come to the Institute to not only find information, find the books that we write, but also the programming that we offer so that it's a one-stop shop for people who are serious about getting results as it relates to diversity, inclusion, and equity. What keeps me motivated to do this work? Interestingly enough, given that I don't have children by choice, I call myself child free. But what keeps me motivated is seeing a child smile. I'm motivated by that because I realize that the work that I and my colleagues do today to help people understand how important it is that we're inclusive and that we recognize truly that we're all connected, that work will pay off in that child's life to give that child a better life as it relates to being fully authentic, fully accepted anywhere in the world. My main message to my audiences is to recognize that our job, no matter what level you are in your organization or in your community, your job is to create a safe space where people can show up and be authentically who they are. And you will see them as authentically who they are while you're being authentic as well. And that's an aspiration because our biases get in the way of that. We tend to make a story up about a person the moment we see them. So what I encourage people to do is to recognize that it's normal to have biases. It's not an abnormal thing. Good people have biases. But what we can do is catch ourselves when we have those stereotypical thoughts and then focus on the individual in front of us so that we can see all of who they are. That then enables everyone to be more effective in their workplace, in their community, and frankly, even in their family.